Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll gave a big shout out to his quarterback for wearing a wristband.
Yeah.
He said the communication between him and Geno is much better and more efficient than it was before. Shade thrown at Russ. Well, Russ didn't like that and came back and said that he won a lot of games in Seattle without wearing a wristband. Are Seahawks the first team in NFL history to be winning out of spite?
Okay, so a couple things. One is we recognize DeMonte's mic has a bit of an echo. We'll make sure we fix that during the break, but bear with us here. Here's what I find so intriguing about the Seahawks. And first, Geno's one of the best stories in the league. It's great. And yeah, sorry. I mean, I feel badly. You're not even supposed to laugh. We know your mic's an issue, so you just got to be quiet for a minute. Not your fault. Geno's an unbelievable story. What I find so fascinating is this team, seemingly to a man, really, really disliked Russ. Pete Carroll had no reason to take this shot at Russ. No one was asking about Russ. No one was asking about the past. They were just praising Geno, and he couldn't help himself but to throw it in. So here's my theory. So we know why the defensive players didn't like Russ. Set the corniness aside. They felt he got too much credit for their greatness. That the team was built on the Legion of Boom and a great defense, and Russ got the glory, and they felt that all manifested itself ultimately at the worst moment possible, when instead of running the ball and having Marshawn Lynch, who was not a defensive player, but was more in that clique, if you will, with Sherman and Thomas and those guys, they called a pass play for Russ so he could be Super Bowl MVP, and they end up losing the Super Bowl. Russ throws a pick. So we know where that came from. And we know where it all, it came to a head, right? Where I think Pete Carroll, who clearly has a sour taste in his mouth about Russ, despite the fact that Pete Carroll was a losing coach in the NFL, it then got Russ, went to Russ, they won a Super Bowl, they had massive success. Where I think Pete's bitterness comes from is, I think Pete feels like, I chose you over the defensive guys. We paid you. We traded those guys away. You wanted me to hire Shane Waldron. I hired Shane Waldron. We put the team in your hands. We did all of those things. I cost myself these other relationships. And then you demanded out. I did all of these things in service to you, and then you demanded out. And I get that. I get that it's not a marriage, but to use a messy metaphor, if no matter how much great history you have with somebody, if all of a sudden they're like, I don't like your friends, I don't like who you're hanging out with, I don't like what your hobbies, and you cut all those things off in service of your significant other, and then your significant other is still like, I'm out anyway, you'd be extra upset. It's like, I made all these sacrifices for you, for us, and then you bounced. So I think that's where it comes from with Pete Carroll, and I understand it.
Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.